and we have some great speakers along the way throughout. Continue the great networking that all of you are doing throughout your time here. So we're going to get things started, and I'm just so excited to bring this gentleman up to the stage because he's been a long-time supporter of Operation Hope. He's also been a great friend of Operation Hope, and he's been a staunch advocate of our work for many, many, many years, and been really in charge of a fast-changing economy. And so I'm just so excited. I told you yesterday that, you know, there's a lot of people who I'll be acknowledging as brothers from another mother and sisters from another mister. Well, here's one of those, a brother from another mother. And so without further ado, I would like to bring to the stage the Chief Social Impact and Inclusion Officer for Cisco, Brian Tippins. Go get him, brother.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Cisco in the house. I appreciate you. Thank you, Lance. Thank you, John. Thank you, Operation Hope, for bringing us together. It's so great to see such a full room this morning. It was great to see all the energy last night, and I'm glad that you brought that energy today again. It was good to hear so many of you are first-timers. I myself am, I guess you could say, OG. I've been in this for a long time. I've been to 10-plus years of Operation Hope Global Forum, but I've been a friend of Hope, a friend of John's, for over 25 years, and so impressed with the work that they do as conveners. For those of you who are first-timers, if I have one piece of advice, well, there's two pieces of advice. Last night, the advice was get your food fast, because that buffet line fills up fast. Hopefully you did that. But my other piece of advice is network, network, network. Take advantage of the opportunities to spend time not just listening to those of us on stage, but to meet others in the room. I am about 3 years with Cisco, but over 3 decades in the technology industry. I'm a lawyer by training and have been in roles like Chief Diversity Officer for many years, Chief Sustainability Officer, and now look after social impact and inclusion for Cisco. I'll talk to you a little bit about what that means. But let me talk a little bit about Cisco. Again, we have Cisco in the house. Yes? Cisco, you may know that, as Lance mentioned last night, it's our first year as premier sponsor of Operation Hope Global Forum, but it's not our last. The purpose of Cisco is so very aligned with the purpose of Operation Hope, and so we're happy to be here. We just celebrate our 40th anniversary as a technology company, which is quite a bit to say for a technology company, Silicon Valley-based company. We're about being the worldwide technology leader, revolutionizing the way that organizations connect and protect in the AI era. We're about networking, security, cybersecurity, observability, et cetera. Based in San Jose, California, and again, we're about 90,000 team members from across the globe. Our purpose, and we all, those of us who represent corporations, have a purpose statement about what we represent in the communities where we do business. Our purpose is to power an inclusive future for all. To power an inclusive future for all. And we draw out what those means. Power, about 80% of the world's traffic or more, internet traffic rather, flows over Cisco devices. When we talk about inclusion, we drive inclusion and accessibility to all that we do inside the 4 walls of the company, but also the communities where we live and work. When we talk about future, very much to the theme today of future-proofing business, we think about our carbon emissions and our net zero aspirations, and importantly, we talk about for all, providing equity and access and accessibility to all. Inside that organization, I have the pleasure of leading what we call social impact and inclusion. It's about how we maximize the value of Cisco's resources, our people, our dollars, our advocacy, to make maximum positive impact in communities around the globe. It's really about community, and I tell you this in terms of laying a foundation as to what we talk about when we talk about future-proofing inclusion. When I think of these communities where we work to maximize our impact, it's first about our internal communities, the communities inside Cisco. Again, we're about 90,000 team members doing business around the globe. Inside that, we think about providing accessibility. We think about our inclusive communities. We don't say employee resource groups. We've got 30-plus inclusive communities that run the full gamut from race and origin and sexual orientation all the way to health and wellness and veterans and men as allies, et cetera. Again, it's about having a place for all in that mix. It's around employee volunteerism, how we encourage our team members to participate in the communities where they live and work. So it's about internal communities. It's importantly around external communities, how we work through Cisco and the Cisco Foundation to make positive impact in communities around the globe to build connected, resilient, thriving communities, including a lot of work right here in our backyard here in Atlanta. We, in 2020, made what was at that time the largest corporate commitment to historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, $150 million is what we pledged, including over the last 5 years, about $8 to $10 million to Spelman and Clark Atlanta. And I have a number of my team members here. If you have interest in learning more about that, the gentleman who runs our HBCU effort, Scott McGregor, is in the room, so we'll talk more about that. I'll give you his home phone number if you're interested. So we work on internal communities, external communities, but we're also largely about showing up for communities in times of crisis. Lance talked about this last night. At no time in the past have we seen more natural disasters and crises that challenge communities. And so we as Cisco show up in times of crisis to bring technology and connectivity. We're in the connectivity business, and we can bring those resources to bear when there's a natural disaster like a wildfire in Maui or earthquake in Morocco or typhoon in the Philippines. We also bring those connectivity assets to bear to help refugees in times of crisis. I've got team members right now in the African nation of Burundi providing connectivity to refugees who are fleeing harm's way in Democratic Republic of Congo. And so, again, it's about showing up for communities around the globe. And so we think a lot about future-proofing. Future-proofing, we heard some last night about future-proofing in terms of housing, in terms of finance. You'll hear more about future-proofing in terms of AI. It's about building resilience in our businesses, building resilience to face challenges in the future, challenges some we can identify, some that we can't identify. It's not just being reactive to what's happening today and tomorrow, but building these processes into our businesses to think about how we perform and outperform markets for the long term. And those of you who have visited this Hope Global Forum in the past have heard us talk about this a lot in the past, and the problem statements about why we need to be thinking about future-proofing. And I won't repeat all the statistics that you've heard over and over again, but we hear the statistics over and over again, if you've been here years, about wealth disparities, the wealth gaps between different ethnic groups, and the results that flow from that. Wealth disparities lead to racial wealth gaps, to home ownership disparities, to disparities in terms of access to capital and savings and credit and banking and entrepreneurship and small business. And we've done such a great job over the last several years, not just talking about those disparities, but working as a collective, all of us in the room, to be able to address those inequities, right? It's about how we're thinking about future-proofing going forward. And while a lot of that continues to be the case, you heard some of that from Jeremy at Zillow last night, you'll hear more from other leaders today about how those issues persist, I would argue, and I think you may agree, that we're living in different times. We're living in some challenging times right now. It was interesting last night, I was talking to John earlier today, and he made the observation that all of last night's speakers, you heard nothing about politics, which is amazing. You won't hear a lot about politics, but there's this big elephant in the, but I'm gonna talk about politics. No, I'm not gonna talk about politics. I'm just gonna say that we're living in interesting times and there's challenges without making any political statements. The facts speak for themselves, that these wealth disparities persist. Just a few titles of articles from over just the last few days. Income inequality is surging in the US. Middle-income Americans are pessimistic about their financial future, scraping for crumbs. Americans squeezed by affordability crisis. Jeremy reminded us last night that just since COVID, average home prices across the United States have doubled. So there's some unique nuances there in terms of economic disparities. There's also these unique nuances, again, without making any political statements, around the attacks on what we traditionally refer to as diversity, equity, and inclusion, the programs that many of us in the room have held dear, to level playing fields, to drive equity in our workforces, in supply chains and supply chain diversity, around inclusion programs, around community investments or corporate investments in equity and equality, right? We're also facing potential challenges in terms of AI. And we're gonna speak a lot today on various stages and breakout sessions about the promises of AI, but be assured there are also some challenges that if we're not very diligent about being proactive in addressing, we can face challenges that even further exacerbate inequities. And I'll give you a couple examples. Large language models, AI by its very nature, and I know that we're all AI experts in the room, you know that LLMs by their very nature can be hotbeds for increasing bias, for proliferating bias. I'll give you an example. I did this in stages on many years, including on the African continent. Well, I challenge people in the audience to pull out their phone, to open up Google, to go to a Google image search and just type the words "beautiful baby." You don't have to do that now. But what would happen is when you do that, a lot of beautiful babies would show up, but they weren't babies that look like me or many of you in the room, right? There's a couple of other examples. You know that AI has many text-to-image searches, right? Like Stable Diffusion, Midjourney. There was a study by Bloomberg Technology 2 years ago where they took this text-to-image engine called Stable Diffusion and they programmed in a number of job titles and they generated thousands of images: doctor, lawyer, judge, food service worker, bus driver, janitor, et cetera. And you can tell where I'm going with the story, right? Images of higher paying professions showed people were more fair skinned and lower paying professions more dark skinned, right? There was another study by an organization called BuzzFeed 2 years ago that used a text to image generator called Midjourney. And they said, generate Barbie doll images from around the world, 184 countries. And some were very true to what you would imagine, but some were a little bit biased in their imagery. Many South American countries showed images of very fair-skinned Barbies, kind of exacerbating these issues of colorism. The Barbie from South Sudan was a beautiful dark-skinned woman carrying a rifle, right? And so just to show that bias can proliferate in these engines, we're not very cautious about it. We have to be diligently thinking about these potential challenges of AI as we're looking towards the future, in terms of not only mitigating bias in these systems, but also how we think about AI adoption and building the workforce of the future. We at Cisco have put a research in the field for 3 years now and come up with what we call our AI Readiness Index, where we query a number of corporations about their readiness to adopt AI. And we measure on factors like strategy and infrastructure and data governance, talent, and culture. And it's been very eye-opening because we've learned from this a number of different issues. We see that while 90% more of companies that we investigate are planning to inject AI into their strategies, less than 70% feel like they're ready or on track. There's some challenges and a gap between ambition and execution, which for us creates a challenge. Those of us who are problem solvers in the room have to be thinking about the fact that we've got to be addressing the need for workforce evolution in entry-level jobs, facing high to moderate transformation potential across different roles. And as we do this, I'd wager that while we look primarily at technology jobs, ICT jobs, information community technology sector jobs, I would argue that all of our roles are on some level technology jobs. We're all technologists. Whether you work for Cisco, Microsoft, Intel, ChatGPT, OpenAI, or if you work for Truist, Wells Fargo, right? There's Purple Rain. We know, and you know, that technology is woven into all of our jobs, regardless of what your day-to-day job title is. We're all technologists on some level, even if you're a creative. I know there's lots of creatives in the room. If you're a music producer, a content creator, you have to be in tune with AI as you're working on digital distribution or creating new content. And so just to say we're living in challenging times, that today is a little bit different than where we were before, that we're building on a history, but what got us to here won't get us to there. We've got to be thinking about how we build resilience in our businesses to future-proof inclusion. And so I've got a bit of a call to action for each of you as we think through the next few days. And I challenge you to keep these things in mind as we think about where do we go from here? Because again, what got us to here will not get us to there. How do we think different? And I'll start with the lesson that I tell my team all the time. They probably get tired of me saying these words. I say to my team all the time, never waste a good crisis. Never waste a good crisis. And I attribute this to Rahm Emanuel. Rahm was a chief of staff in the first Obama administration. He was the mayor of Chicago. He was most recently U.S. ambassador to Japan. It was also said by Winston Churchill and others, never waste a good crisis. And he says in his quote, what I mean by that is an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before. Christy from Wells Fargo Bank yesterday talked about how we need to be thinking different. We can't bury our heads in the sand. We are those in the room that are going to drive the change that we want to see. And so we have to lean into that crisis. Never waste a good crisis. John reminds us, before the storms, there was a rainbow, or the rainbow before the storms. Always being looking towards the future and being very action-oriented. Not focusing just on the challenges of AI, but the opportunities of AI, that if we all do our jobs correctly, we create massive amounts of opportunity. I'm still a firm believer in the power of technology to level playing fields and build communities. And so in terms of AI, listen closely today as you hear from many folks, including my colleague Chelsea, who will be speaking in one of the breakout sessions about inclusive AI for the future. Thinking about ethical AI, thinking about transparency and people at the core of all that you do. Thinking about a focus on inclusive AI so you can battle those biases that are inherent. Think about AI for good and social impact. Importantly, think about training and upskilling because we've got this massive opportunity to build the workforce of the future. There will be some jobs lost to AI. We'd be fooling ourselves if we said that wasn't the case. There'll be some skills that are kind of highly repeatable call center support jobs that may get lost to AI, but we're going to displace those with the incredible amount of job growth. Our chief product officer, Jitu Patel, always says, don't worry about losing your job to AI. Worry about losing your job to the person who knows how to use AI better than you, right? And so we've got to lean into those challenges. And then finally, I'd say, think about the business value of inclusion. Inclusion is just not a nice to do. It's around driving business value. And I think about this a lot in terms of the 3 C's of inclusion, I like to say. The first being compliance. Whatever we do, whether it's in our workforce or in supply chains, we've got to think about not running afoul of compliance requirements that might limit access to markets where we want to do business. It's second about corporate social responsibility being the nice thing to do. We want to be sure that our workforce diversity represents the diversity and inclusive nature of the communities where we do business, that matches the needs of our customers and markets. But most important is the third C, which is competitive advantage. These programs are only sticky to the extent that we drive business value, whether it's because our focus on inclusion and having an inclusive workforce and supply chain creates innovation, creates an environment where people want to work for us because we're in a fight for the best and brightest talent, because communities of color are brand loyal. Coca-Cola's in the room, I believe. I can't be in Atlanta and not mention Coca-Cola and them recognizing decades ago that communities of color are brand loyal and buy from those who invest in their community. So whatever that business driver is, you've got to tie the work that you do to economic value. Otherwise, it won't be sticky. John Bryant talks about it in more blunt ways than I want corporate, so I have to say it in those words. But listen to John Bryant and what he's talked about in recent interviews, including a Time interview and some of his podcasts about the value of inclusion. America cannot succeed without minorities, he says. The next chapter is about inclusion. What matters is economics, it's math, the numbers don't lie. A future-proof economy requires participation from everyone. So those are my lessons to you, my admonitions as you think through the next couple of days around leaning in, not wasting a good crisis, leaning into the future potential of AI, but also leaning into the inclusion as a business driver. And if we do those, every person in this room has a role to play in what happens next. Over the next 2 days, please take notes, ask questions, connect with your partners, determine where you could lean in, because we have this opportunity in this moment to build something stronger, something more inclusive, something more future ready, and more future proof than anything else. Please take a moment to connect with me. Grab my QR code, connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to keep the discussion going. I welcome your questions. We also welcome your questions from those at the Cisco table once again. And with that, I thank you very much. Before I walk off the stage, I just want to take just one moment to reflect a little bit. We all recognize that we stand on the shoulders of giants. If you were here last night, you heard Chairman John Bryant give props to Uncle Andy, Ambassador Andrew Young, who was in the room, a true giant in the civil rights movement, former Ambassador Andrew Young, former Mayor Andrew Young. I want to also just recognize for a moment Reverend Jesse Jackson, who is ailing, as you all know. Reverend Jackson says inclusion is not a matter of political correctness. It's the key to growth. Those of you who are following his journey know that at 83, 84 years old, he's been suffering with what was initially diagnosed as Parkinson's, but we now know it's a debilitating, uncurable neurological disease. So we want to have him in our thoughts and prayers as we go through the next couple of days. And with that, I thank you again.
Please welcome legendary anchor and Atlanta treasure, Karen Greer.
Good morning. You guys looking great. Fresh, ready to go for a wonderful day. You ready? I hope you are. Last night was amazing. Hopefully you were here with us last night as we wrap things up with a little concert. Today, Deborah Cox was amazing. Who was here? Yeah, she was amazing. Today, we've got some powerhouses for you, so hopefully you are in your seats and ready to go. I had the pleasure of really hosting these forums for the very first time back in 2015, and I'm amazed at how it has continued to grow. Former President Bill Clinton was here on the stage with us for that one. We were at the Omni Hotel, and it was wonderful. So thank you for all of you who've been on this journey with us all these years. And we couldn't do it without our partners, and Operation Hope is lucky to have so many committed partners helping us help others. One of those partners is the purpose-led team who was really kind of cheering us up this morning as you came up that escalator. Where are the folks from Truist? All right, take a look. We've got a video for you. Check it out.
Some people think of banking as a numbers game. Debit, credit, checking account. But at Truist, we understand it's so much deeper than that. ultimately, it's about people and helping them achieve their hopes, goals, and dreams in life. I am so proud of our branch teams, financial inclusion leaders, and Operation Hope coaches. Every day, they're inspired to partner with people no matter where they are in their financial journey. Through the financial knowledge we share, delivered with care, we're providing the solutions, resources, and tools to help make better financial decisions. This means digitally empowering clients to manage their money day to day. And for those more complex issues, we're deeply relational with AI-driven insights, personalized advice, and financial coaching. It is our honor to help ensure individuals, families, and communities can thrive no matter what challenge they are facing.
My name is Tamara Wilkins. I'm a financial wellness coach with Operation Hope. My background is in mortgages for over 20 years, so I find it a joy to work for Operation Hope and to help people in the Richmond area to achieve their dream of home ownership. Sherelle found out about the program by watching John Hope Bryant on The Breakfast Club. In the beginning, there was, quite a little hurdle to get through.
It was pretty difficult, and it was a challenge, and I didn't know what we were going to do. But thank God for Miss Tamara, because once I got partnered with her, we were able to just put things together, and man, my situation changed dramatically.
The process was quite easy. We worked with Charles Anderson. He is a CRA mortgage loan officer with Truist, and get her pre-qualified for the mortgage.
It was so hard to imagine me in a home just because of all the difficulties that was in front of us. But when we partnered with Operation Hope, my dream of home ownership became a reality. I want to thank Operation Hope. I want to thank Truist, and I want to thank my realtor for making my home ownership dream become a reality for me and my boys. We are so grateful, and I know that we are defeating poverty because of you all.
Truist, our purpose is clear: to inspire and build better lives in communities. And this story is just one of countless examples where we're bringing our purpose to life. Every day, our teammates are committed to creating success for our clients, sharing the basics of financial success, helping families build and transfer wealth, and ensuring financial resiliency for all. We're proud to stand with Operation Hope to future-proof tomorrow for our clients and their families and our communities. And we're bringing everyone along this journey with us.
That story is what this is all about. Look at you crying. Tears to my eyes as well. That is what today is all about. So excited to see this happen for so many families, and we're into the holidays, so this is so important. Please join me in welcoming to the stage 28-year employee of Operation Hope, President of Partnerships, Mary Earsom, and Head of Branch Banking for Truist, Kim Harding.
The purple power. I was backstage, and after 28 years, I still get tears in my eyes when I hear stories like that. And that's what we're doing every day. So why is it important to Truist? Why is it important to you?
Well, at Truist, our purpose is to inspire and build better lives and communities. And honestly, I can't think of a better demonstration of what that looks like. And Mary, if you don't mind, can I just recognize the true heroes in this room, Charnel and Tamara? Do y'all mind please just standing? Because you all are the magic that happens every single day and creates hope and inspiration for us all. Like, that's just such an incredible reminder of what we do every day. You think about the opportunity to have home ownership. And hopefully this Thanksgiving was a little sweeter, being in your own home with your boys and really just enjoying that moment and being able to be a part of that journey is what brings me joy. And that's what we wake up every single day at Truist to do, is to figure out ways to help create empowerment and create the ability for you to thrive and thrive for the future.
Yes, I love it. Well, and I think way beyond even the home ownership, and I agree that a happy Thanksgiving, but it goes beyond that and deeper. And what we do, we're talking about generational wealth. We're talking about the impact on the not only the household, but the entire community and the entire infrastructure, the teachers that are teaching the students in the schools, the other parents, and the inspiration that comes with that. And that's all because of Truist and what we do together. So thank you for that. So you've heard it, the people, I call it the purple passion, the purple power. I have been in the Truist building and felt it, and it's a really unique culture. It truly is. So how do you lead with your culture? How do you and your team members really build it into what you do every day?
So it just really starts at the beginning. Like, we lead just by example. And so we lean in, we lead with heart, we lead with care. You know, our values are about one team. It's about caring. Every person matters. And when we think about trying to create success, we want to meet people where they are in their financial journey. We want to empower them. We want to help them make better decisions. And Mary, our partnership with Operation Hope is just critical. So today we have 38 coaches in over 750 of our branches. And what's great about that is we're making the difference together. We can't do it alone. I know all of the people that are in here today are doing this because you care and you have a passion for this work, because you want to future-proof. You want to make a better life. And being able to do that with a great partner like you is what gets us excited and what we do every single day. I know our teammates at Truist have so much pride in what they do and how they can change a life, just one family, one community at a time.
I love it. I love it. And we've been able to do some unique things together to make that work. I mean, the partnership works because you invest the time in your team, in the team that supports the branches, but also the branch managers, the team members, the loan officers. They get it. They understand what our partnership is. You infuse that in them. And we pioneered the community coverage model. So I think one success that we've seen, of the multiple successes that we've seen through our partnership, is looking at how do we reach a broader geography? How do we go across your footprint? So what we did together is have one Operation Hope coach that has serving up to 20 branches in a given market, so that your team members can refer your clients to the coach. And it really has helped us put a model for scalability in place. So thank you for your leadership. That's what makes that happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Well, you and I have gotten to know each other pretty well now. And I know I've shared this with you before, but from the second that I met you, I knew that you, as you shared a minute ago, you really lead with your heart. And you are a perfect combination of brilliance and soul in everything that you do. We've had quite a year serving on the Truist Operating Council, and then as head of branch banking, which is a role that is not always held by a woman. Yeah. You're not only head of branch banking, you are head of branch banking for one of the 10th largest banks in the country, $544 billion in assets, 1,900 branches under your leadership, 11,000 Truist team members like the ones in the audience, and a growth and digitization strategy that's going to expand to 100 new branches with the digital strategy infused by 2030. So that's a lot. As I said, brilliant, soulful, and badass. But I have to say, one of the things that I most loved about your bio is that in addition to everything that I've shared, you clearly state that you have a belief and a passion in using your platform to advocate for those that cannot advocate for themselves. And this is not in your Instagram bio. This is not in your Facebook bio. It is in your corporate bio. And that is impressive. So what does that mean to you?
Well, a couple things. I would just say, thinking about my journey and thinking about the opportunity to sit before you today, I have just immense gratitude and thankfulness. But it started really about how I grew up. So born and raised in a small town of Virginia, and first generation college student. And why that's important is my dad has a 9th grade education, mom, high school degree. And at one point, I never shared that because it was almost a sense of like, you know, are people going to approve? Is that going to be okay? But I'll tell you, that's been a source of strength And being able to advocate and share my story and be able to inspire others has been incredible, because what I tell you is my dad taught me lessons that no college, no school, no one could teach me. And that was, number one, just be a good person.
Yeah.
Care for others. Number two, have a work ethic that is like none other. Get up, do the work, have grit, and just enjoy what you're doing. And then three, Mary, it's so simple. Two things. He said, look someone in the eye, and he taught me how to shake a hand. Those things just superseded. And so what's awesome about that is that full circle today, I have a little girl, and I've talked a lot about Olivia. And so for anyone that knows, you can't know me without knowing my daughter. Olivia, she's 7 years old and truly a miracle to be alive. So she had a very complex medical history and also is just differently abled. And so when you think about my platform, my opportunity, my purpose, it's to inspire others that anything is possible, because that little girl at this age has already overcome so many barriers. And to think about where she's going, what she's gonna do, gets me excited. I tell her every day, Mommy's going to work to make you proud. Mommy's going to work to change a life, because that's what this means. It is so personal to be able to see the differences we can make generations ahead, changing the future for my child, for others to come, just like my dad did for me. That's why I do this work. It is so important, and I'm not ashamed, and I want the corporate world to know who I am, because I'm not a figurehead.
I love it.
It is about who I am at my core, and when you lead that way, people can connect.
Yeah, that's right. I see that. And I love that, you know, and as you do with your daughter every day, and making sure that she is inspired, she is able, you are taking that into how you inspire your team members, you know, and as I was sharing, branch by branch by branch and expanding, that is what empowers your team.
That's right.
But it is the personal commitment that you have and the history with your father that really shines through. That's beautiful. I look forward to meeting your daughter.
Thank you. I can't wait.
That's great. Well, we are about future-proofing over the next couple of days. And, you know, as Truist continues to climb and to soar and to expand and to innovate, you know, what do you see as the best way that Truist can future-proof through our partnership and even beyond?
I think our partnership is critical. You know, what I'm proud of, since we become partners, we have created and empowered over 436,000 financial empowerment services for 89,000 individuals and communities. And Mary, we're not done.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's exciting. It's like, we're not done yet, because there's so much work still left to do, but thinking about the impact that we make there. And what gives me joy is to see the proof of our impact. So think about those individuals that take advantage of those services and the support and the brilliance of the Operation Hope coaches have on average 41-point better credit scores. They actually have now reduced medium debt by $2,100. And they have learned to save over $1,250, things that they didn't think was possible through our partnership.
Yep.
And we're just gonna continue that. We're gonna scale that. We talked a lot about how do we introduce technology and use AI. And you mentioned our 100 insights-driven branches, renovating over 300 branches, and get excited. Some of that's coming to right here in Atlanta, so that's very important. Such a critical part for our communities. You think about other high impact and high growth markets such as Orlando, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Austin, Dallas, just to name a few. Like, that's really important that we're giving and going out to the communities that matter the most, that have high growth, that have needs, and have people that need us to say, how can I help empower you to make better decisions? How can I use technology and AI-driven insights to take what has traditionally been a transactional relationship to really relational, and give them the tools? Because I think that's what's so empowering, is giving someone the tools, the roadmap to be able to tell someone else to do better for themselves. That's what we live to do every single day. And that, to me, is what's is all about inspiring and building better lives and communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And you live that. And it's true. I mean, we're going to continue to come back and celebrate the impact that we're doing, because it is about raising credit scores and increasing savings, reducing debt. But what comes next? It's the tools and the access to mortgages, to small business dreamers turning into small business owners. We've seen it over the last 4 years, and we're continuing to go as we expand our partnership, and we look forward to doing it hand in hand with you. So how do you see the future? I mean, we're in the house of hope. So what gives you hope for the future?
I would say everyone that's sitting here invested in how we partner, thinking about ways that we can take the technology, take what we've learned, take the things that are just in front of us and help to future-proof the next generation. Give the resources, give the knowledge, give the empowerment to them. And working with partners like Operation Hope, and I know there's a lot of other organizations here that partner with you all, we're collectively doing this. We want to make a big difference because there's so much work to be done, but I have so much hope, so much excitement, and so much just faith in our ability to do this together and rally. There's nothing we can't do. And I think if we believe it, we put the work behind it, then nothing is impossible. And that goes back to what I believe in just at the core. So
I love
to
it.
partner with you.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing more.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Got it.
My name is Kwani Gore. I'm a Delta Airlines New York City-based flight attendant, and my coach is Calvin Haynes. After seeing the advertisement through Delta, I decided that I really want to get my things in order. I have 2 young children, and I just want to make sure that my finances are together so that I can give them the best possible life. My mom passed away when I was pretty young, and my grandmother raised us, and she didn't really have a savings. We did for a while, and then, life happened. And I realized that that's not how I want to raise my children. I want to make sure that we're solid and we're secure, and I never want to feel insecure financially. And so that led me to meeting with Coach Calvin and trying to just have my affairs in order. One of the most important things that Coach Calvin has taught me is to look at my finances and not be afraid to look at what I'm spending. I used to be the type of person to spend and then just hope that I had it when it was time to swipe my card again. I'm not like that. I make sure that I check my accounts daily. I need to know exactly where I stand. I need to make sure that I'm not spending on things that I don't need to spend on. I was spending a lot of money on coffee, believe it or not, like a ton of money on coffee. And I have a great Nespresso machine in my house that I should be using. I'm most optimistic about living a long and peaceful life with my children. The coaching that I'm receiving from Coach Calvin is really helping me with my finances, and my finances being in order helps my house be more peaceful. It's making it so that my time spent with my children is quality time, and I'm not stressed. I'm not worried about the money. We want to buy a house. I want my children to have somewhere to call home, like they're forever home. I want my children to be able to always have somewhere to go, somewhere safe, somewhere secure, somewhere that is theirs and ours. They're young, they're 4 and 1. They want to run outside in the backyard. I want to let them run outside in the backyard. We want a dog. I want to have cookouts in my yard. I want to decorate my house. I want all of the lights for Christmas. I want pumpkins for Halloween. I want to have Thanksgiving there. I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping that I'm able to reach that goal soon.
And that is why Atlanta is so proud to be headquarters for Delta Airlines. And we're excited to have with us its dynamic and innovative leader who's going to lead a conversation about just how you invest in your people, and that makes a difference. It pays dividends. So please give a warm Hope Global Forum's welcome to the Senior Vice President, Airport Customer Service for Delta Airlines, Richard Cox. The CEO of Great Places to Work, Michael Bush. And the CEO of Delta Airlines, Mr. Ed Bastian.
Well, good morning, everyone. Hopefully everyone made it in. It's a little bit of a traffic snafu. I almost got an offender bender myself there trying to make an inappropriate left turn in, but I made it. I'm in good shape. No one was harmed, including the car, so we're all good. Well, I am thrilled to be back here. It's always one of the fun events I get to do each year, and I thank John Hope Bryant for including not just myself, but Delta as one of the not just presenting sponsors, but giving us a platform to continue to share our progress and our journey together. And we have a really important topic to talk about today, and that's why I brought 2 folks that I believe are foremost experts on it. How does culture Continue to become ingrained and allow your company to soar is the theme of the topic that we're going to be talking today. And when you talk about culture, you have to first think about values, because culture isn't just something that is the end result of everything you do. Culture has to be very intentional. It has to be deliberate. And if you're not intentional about it, you're going to get the culture that you deserve, which is, not a very great culture. But it's the values and the alignment that leadership has with actions following the values stipulated by the corporation. The other reason why this topic, I think, is so relevant today is we operate in a world and a society where trust is, I would argue, one of the most important currencies that one can have. And it doesn't matter whether you're in politics, whether you're running a big company, whether you're in a church. You have to have people that believe in you, that trust you, that know that you'll be behind them. But trust is also fundamental to the values and living out the values. So it's a big topic, and we're going to dig into this. Richard Cox is our Senior Vice President of Airport Customer Service at Delta, and Richard runs all of the airports. So all of you spend a lot of time with Richard and his team. I told him backstage, it's like the mayor of many big cities all rolled into one. He's got the hardest job in the company, including mine. I mean, his job is phenomenal. And Michael has become a friend over the years, and he's the CEO of Great Places to Work. So he has seen great companies in action, and he studies this. This is his life passion, is to study leadership, study how companies create lasting change, positive change for the good, where people want to come and be part of that community. So I'm going to start off with a question that Richard and Michael, we both talk an awful lot about. There's so much happening in the world. There's polarization, there's divisiveness in our politics, there's technology that's moving at a rapid pace. AI, you can't move without hearing what the latest thing that AI is going to do to us or for us, depending on your perspective. And in all of that, stepping back from that, staying true to our values. What does that mean for you? And I'll start with you, Michael, first. Companies that stay true to their values, why is that so important?
Yeah, Ed, there's really two things that are really important related to values. The first is the purpose of the organization. Why are we here? Why do we do what we do every day? And it's up to leaders to inspire people, to remind them of why we come to work every day. And you want to create a culture that's high trust. Contrary to popular belief, trust is the currency that matters, not crypto.
Yeah,
it's trust.
I love that.
And how we feel about each other, how we feel.
Write that down.
How we feel about the person that we work for, and management, and so on. And so people want to know why you come to work every day, as the CEO, and what you believe in. They may be interested in who you vote for, but they really want to know what you believe in. What things are you willing to do as a leader, and what things are you willing to do as a company, and what things are you not willing to do. And as Warren Buffett said, when the tide goes out, you can tell who's been skinny dipping. And I would add to that, you could tell who shouldn't be skinny dipping. Okay? So it's when times are hard that you find out, what is the company? Who is my leader? It's when times are hard. Yeah. And 2025 has been a time to find out what companies believe in, what leaders believe in, and it's through actions. Everybody's website looks great in terms of their value statement, but what's actually happening in the company? And so what we found in our work, we survey over 23,000 companies around the world in over 170 countries, is that when there is no trust, scores have plummeted. So when things were kind of fragile, what came to the surface is who's skinny dipping, where there is no trust. But great companies, actually scores went up when times are tough. So it's really important. The work of leaders is really important. And if you're going to refresh your values, I would say don't do it in times of trouble. You could clarify your values, make sure people understand what the values mean, but it's not a great time to change them.
Absolutely. Richard?
I first of all, everything that you said, I agree with. I think values, staying true to them, they determine whether you can stand the test of time. And Delta, our foundation is we take care of our employees. We know if we do that, they take care of you, our customers. And that loyalty, that's what drives our success. And many companies talk about values. Our values are integrity, care, servant leadership. But those are words. And I love what you said about tough times. I'll give three quick examples. Ed, look, I'll start with you. Even before I came to Delta, I think one of the most courageous, value-driven decisions during the midst of COVID, and to put this in perspective, Delta's not flying. You made a decision we would not lay off not one employee, and we didn't. That is another one. We blocked the middle seats. And I know for me, as a customer at the time, that gave me the momentum to start traveling. But you did it because of our employees.
Yep.
And again, these decisions based on values during tough times, they are difference makers. And the last one I'll say, and this is core to our culture, we talk about it every day. We empower every one of our employees to call a safety timeout. And to explain to everyone in the room, safety is our highest priority. And so if any employee sees any potential safety issue, it could be something small or large, we empower them to stop the operation, stop a flight, stop a baggage cart. We empower them, and not only do we encourage it, we celebrate it. And those are value-based decisions. And again, I think there's no coincidence that we're the only airline that has been around 100 years.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Richard. Thank you. Michael, could you tell us a little bit about Great Places to Work and what you're seeing leaders across the world, not just in our country, do to deal with the times that are challenging? It seems like every year we talk about times are challenging. Times are just challenging.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the temperatures continue to rise in the polarization that we're experiencing that within our businesses, within our communities, certainly within our politics, and how leaders are leading through that. And if you have any examples of leaders that are doing a great job upholding values, as say rising, and places where potentially you've seen people fall, and what we can learn from that.
Okay, I'm not going to name the companies that fell because that's not good for my business. Okay, but
Okay.
but
Well, they need you though.
But that's why I have a great business. Okay, so everybody was like Delta, I wouldn't have a business. Okay, so but a couple of things. One of them is companies that are doing well right now, and some of you know what it's like to be at a great place to work. It's their leaders. It's their leaders, and leaders interacting with the people who work for them like they care about them as a person, not an employee. That's one of our questions. Do you feel like you're cared for as a person or an employee? There's a big difference between the two. And when you get underneath care, what you find is that people feel like their leaders listen to them, meaning they're not just waiting for their mouth to stop moving before they repeat what they're going to say. They're actually in the moment, asking questions, getting to know the person, to connect with the person. You can't say I care about a person if you don't know the person. And so that's number one. And then how they speak to the people who work for them. There's a lot of respect in the way that you speak. If you want to show whether you would respect somebody or care about somebody, it's how you listen to them and it's how you speak to them. And then thanking them. Making sure everybody likes a thank you. Not everybody likes to be on stage getting thanked. People are different, but everybody appreciates being recognized, and everybody wants to be inspired. There's some people. John Pearson, the CEO of DHL Express, says he wants people to go home from work better than when they left their home to go to work, based on the experience that they have. And great companies are doing that. They're requiring it not only from the CEO, but from the people who report to the CEO, the middle managers, and the most important people in the company, frontline supervisors, who are the ones who really affect the work experience of the person that's working. And companies have doubled down on that. The other thing is great companies during 2025 have decided to stop talking to the media in performative ways about what they're doing, okay?
Yep.
Some people know what I'm talking about. And because number one, media has been bought.
Yep.
So free press is, hopefully something that'll come back. But I forgot this is live stream, but okay. Y'all got any jobs at Delta? Because I might be a free person after this.
Michael,
okay, but
I think everybody here would hire you in a heartbeat.
okay, but because of that reality, what great leaders are doing is like, let me focus on my people.
Mm-hmm.
Let me talk inside the company about what we're doing. And so, like Brian said earlier from Cisco, Cisco is another company. They're the same. Okay. They're the same company today that they were in 2020, 2024, 1996, the same. Okay, the same company. They haven't changed. And when you are consistent, it's because you're living out your values in a completely consistent way. And companies that have decided, there are a lot of people who put out notices of, we're no longer going to do this. We're no longer, due to the executive order, we're no longer going to do that. Well, they weren't doing it in the first place. Yeah. Okay, so what's the difference? Okay, so they just put out a statement about what they weren't doing. It didn't make a difference, But I can think of one example, though, of a company, Target, okay, that I know well, and I know retail well. Okay, we survey the companies that would come to everyone's mind, and they put out a statement that said some things that they were no longer going to do. Now, I know that company. I know the leaders in that company. I know Buba, who runs the Southeast, one of the highest operating roles in immigrant, okay, and one of the highest operating roles in the country in retail. And so I know who they are, but that statement in the hands of a violent press has affected that company, in a very, very dramatic way. So the media is not our friend right now. They're more of a foe. They've learned, like all of us have learned, you can't fight in social media. Mm-hmm. So you just need to make sure that you have your people taken care of, something that Delta does and Cisco and other great companies, and something that you do. Let the media do what it does. Make sure your people know what you believe in and that you believe them every day. Ed's going to leave here and in about a week go to Salt Lake City, this amazing thing that Delta does called Velvet, where there's not a CEO in America who spends more time with their employees than Ed. That's a fact. Okay, that I know. I don't mean live streaming with the people. I mean, he gets on the road face to face with the people. It's a huge commitment that you make. Well, that's why Delta's Delta, because they meet you. And then the other thing at the end of this thing is there's a long line of people. He has to do selfies for like an hour. I've seen it. A lot of CEOs don't have that problem. But you do have that problem. And that's the difference at a time like this. And I know, Delta is stronger now than a year ago. Because everybody knows what they believe in. And so it's inspiring to me. And everybody should feel like their workplace is a great place to work. Our saying is, you should be a great place to work for all. And we want every workplace to be a great place to work for all. There shouldn't be any places where somebody feels disrespected and not cared for. And because we do demographic work, we know that it's not about every workplace is a great place to work for some people. That's not hard at all. The key is to be a great place to work for all people.
Amen. Richard, you joined us only 3 years ago. It's hard to believe because you're so ingrained already into the culture. And I remember speaking, and many of you may know Richard. Richard is a local Atlanta native, was the chief operating officer of the city of Atlanta for a period of time, working for the mayor. And he was actually my boss because he ran Hartsfield-Jackson from the city perspective. So we had to report to Richard as to how we were doing. So we got to see you up close and personal. But one of the things I loved when we talked about the opportunity to come over to Delta is that you wanted to come because you loved and appreciated the values of what we stood for. That it was a company that you looked up to and it lifts you. And I think that's what, candidly, a lot of the secret to our success has been over the years, is that we lift not just leaders, we lift all 100,000 people that come to work. And I like what you said, Michael, about the guy from DHL. We also want our employees to go home feeling like they made a difference in a certain way, and they were supported by their team. Can you talk about that, Richard? You run an operation with 25,000 employees around the world doing hard work, whether it's weather, whether it's thunderstorms, whether it's government shutdowns. Everything that happens in our business somehow comes to affect the airport environment.
Yeah. I think the key is the value alignment. And we talk about that. And, I'll start by saying my first job after graduating from college was in a warehouse. And I share that only to make this one point. After 5 years, I was stuck. And I made a decision. I crafted a personal mission statement to maximize my potential in order to maximize the potential of everyone around me. And so think about that. There's never been a company I worked for where I am empowered to bring that to life each and every day. Keep climbing. It's the exact same thing. And if you've seen our commercials, keep climbing is so much more than a tagline. It is something that we talk about and live out each and every day. One of the things that I love doing is talking to our new hires. And most companies, when you talk about, keep climbing or continuous improvement, it's about the company. But what I get an opportunity to talk to them about is look, you may have come here for a summer job, but I can point you to thousands of people who started that way, and they've been able to positively impact generations, buying homes, putting kids through college because it became a career. And most companies, we talk about this, how do we grow the company? We look at growing our people. And I think perhaps the best example that epitomizes this is we went through this survey, this flourishing survey a few years ago to really understand how our employees were doing. And the thing that jumped out is we had opportunities in financial wellness and really helping them. But it's not specific to Delta. In fact, only 1 in 4 Americans have a savings account. 56% of Americans cannot weather an event that costs $1,000. They can't absorb it. So based on that, we started a first of its kind program aimed at financial education. We partnered with Operation Hope. That's right. Our employees can go through financial education. When they complete it, we give them $750 into an emergency savings account. We don't stop there. We encourage them via payroll deductions to save $250, and then we match that $250. And so we have thousands of employees that now have $1,250 in an emergency savings program. And think about it. This is because we care about our people.
Yeah.
So that value alignment, it makes it easy. Today when we have a snowstorm, I can look my team in the eye and I can say, we got your back. And they have our back.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Thank you, Richard. We're starting to run late on time, but there's one question I do want Michael to address because it's something that through years of studying our own company, studying our own culture and looking at what our people want, there's a paradox. People want strong leaders, but they also want humility. They want people to be able to be honest, to be transparent, to be able to talk and raise their voice when necessary, not to be intimidated, listening. My mom taught me years ago, I got 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them accordingly. I still remember that to this day. But I think at the core is humility. And how do you see humility playing into the context of the environment which we today, in terms of leading? Because everyone's looking to leaders to have answers.
Yeah.
I think our people are looking for leaders that care.
Well, if we all in our mind right now think about leaders that we don't respect, they lack humility. Okay? They know everything. Okay? And they never make mistakes. And they're not for all, they're for some. Okay? So that's that. And if you go to the other end, you know, like if you ask somebody, think about the greatest leader that you ever worked for. They'll usually stop and then they light up and they start telling you about this person and this connection to this person. And that person made them feel like they were the only person in the room when they talk to them. They talk about it. That person, they'll see them at a college reunion and they'll say something that they remember, about them. That person's present. That person is curious. You know, if you don't know everything, you're seeking knowledge, so you're curious. You're humble and you're curious. You're transparent. You have empathy. You ask questions so you can learn about the other person, because through learning about another person, you're improved, and you believe that. And most important, you have compassion, because empathy is learning what it's like to walk in another person's shoes. Compassion is wanting to make things better for that person. Compassion is an action word. Listening is an action word. So these are the things. But I agree that at the root of all that is humility. Is that you have an honest assessment. Humility is having an honest assessment of yourself. You're great and you're not so great. Okay? It's both.
I go home, my wife tells me every night.
Yeah. There's a way to get that.
The greatest source of humility is your spouse.
I don't have to
and
send out a
partner.
survey to get feedback on that one. Oh, okay, I could just go home. Okay? But there's the reality of it. And people are attracted to leaders like that. People will do anything for leaders like that. You know, you have people who will work, 30 hours, go sleep 3, and go work another 30.
Yeah.
Pay doesn't do that.
No.
It just doesn't do it. It's something else. It's a sense of purpose. I make a difference here. As an individual, there's things I can do, but as a part of a great company like Delta, I can have global impact and affect millions of people. It means I matter. I really matter. And I'm around people who are gonna treat me like that. And that's a person who, when they get home, they feel good. Mm-hmm. They work 30 hours and they feel good about it. And when you talk to somebody about their best experiences at work, they normally describe a tough time.
Yeah.
They go, the project was tough. It was hard. The demands were high. We didn't really have the resources. We had to get a lot done with a little. They described that, and that was like a shining moment for them. So for every leader out there, it's about humility. Ed's right, about listening, being in the moment. It's about caring. And if you don't care about the people around you, you need to do something about yourself. Oh, okay?
Right. That's right.
Well, I think that's the mic drop moment here that we were looking for. Michael Bush, Richard Cox, you won't find two better leaders and experts on leadership than these two men. Let's give them a big hand.
This guy right here, too.
That was awesome.
Thanks.
Michael, Richard, thank you very much. Ed, come over here for a second. Come here, Ed.
I'm bringing these guys with me. I'm bringing my friends.
We've made Ed an honorary black man a long time ago. Look, the first CEO ever to show up, the Fortune 500 CEO ever to show up at a Hope Global Forum and invited himself.
True story.
The first CEO every year, who says, what's the dates? I want to be there. No matter how busy I am, I have to show up. Now, you don't need to clap on this because this is too much, but just let me just sink this in. The number one airline in the world right now, one of the most profitable, the biggest market cap, the most respected, the first airline to reach 100 years. By the way, Ambassador Andrew Young, right here, give him some love. Carolyn Young, his brilliant wife. Behind every successful man is an exhausted woman. Yes. And he named a plane after Ambassador Andrew Young. He named his headquarters building after Ambassador Andrew Young. This man, Ed Bastian, did that. So we're not talking about some also ran CEO. We're not talking about somebody who's got some soft, mealy mouse brain and a second-rate leader. We're talking about one of the biggest CEOs in the world, the best airline in the world, the most well-performing economically in the world, who knows how to treat his people. I had a vision, I had an idea, I wanted to do financial coaching. He introduced me to people in his office who handled HR. They're like, I think we got that handled. I said, okay, can I put an office there as a test? They said, sure. Pandemic hits, the leaders call and say, we think we need a financial coaching throughout the organization. I go and do that. Then because they found $1 billion had been pulled out of during COVID, of people who were quietly in crisis and needed that money. They responded to that, put coaches nationwide, Joanne. And after that, they said, we need to add the $1,000 emergency savings account because most folks don't have money. When I'm on an airline now on Delta, the flight attendants will come to me. I use that money to get a stove from my mother. I use that money so I could get married. I use that money because Johnny got sick and I couldn't pay rent. They're crying. This changed their life. They're not showing up to work. They're showing up to family. This is a great leader. Give him some love. Ed Bastian.
You're the best. Love you. Love you. Love you. Thank you. Good job.
Did you enjoy that? Yes, yes. And I'm going to add, while John was up here, I was for months, because he's so busy trying to get an interview and with Ed Bastian, and I called John and I said, I need some help. Can you help me? And he called. I had the interview the next couple days. So John knows everybody and is always ready to help everybody. So let's give him another big round of applause for all that he does. It is inspiring to see how you're all helping to make lives better for people everywhere. Next up, we're going to talk about how sometimes making life better for people requires more than just motion, but a movement. We've brought together a very special group of folks that you're going to enjoy today. So I ask you to please stand up. Let's get those legs working for a little bit. We're going to take a break right after this. And welcome to the stage, the one, the only, chairman of TDJ Enterprises, Bishop T.D. Jakes. Pulitzer Prize winning author of King and Ali, Jonathan Eig. The anchor of Newsnight with Abby Phillip, CNN's Abby Phillip. And the founder of Dream Machine Innovation Lab, the incomparable Van Jones.
Wow. How's everybody doing? Y'all good? I can't hear you. Y'all good? You know, I come out to church, I want to hear some noise talking back at me. We're excited to have this opportunity to talk to these distinguished ladies and gentlemen who bring so much to the table at such a critical time of thought, giving us an opportunity to think deeply about where we have been and where we are going and how we are going to be able to preserve who we are and what we have and project it into the future and protect our heritage, our roots, our background, and our vision for the future. And each one in their own way has brought something, a gift to give us today, to help us to better understand and to think and to reflect on how we perceive ourselves. Because if we do not perceive ourselves correctly, then we can't expect other people to understand what we have overlooked. So we're going to jump right into it. I don't have a lot of time for all the things I want to ask. I'm going to go ladies first. I'm going to go right to the middle and go right to Abby Phillips. Abby has just come back from writing a book. She's released a new book. She's going to tell you about the book and, more importantly, the subject of the book?
Well, Reverend Jakes, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for being here. It's great to be here. Anytime John Hope Bryant calls me, I show up.
Absolutely.
So, I first want to say that it's great to be with all of you on this stage, and particularly at this moment. I mean, I think the book is really not just about one man, Jesse Jackson, who I'm sure all of you know, but it's about all of us. It's about our history. It's about what we know about our own history. And it's also a little bit about where we're headed, potentially, as a nation. This book takes a very close look at the efforts that he made to be engaged in politics specifically. He's done a lot of things in his life, but this looks at his political contributions and the journey of this man who came from very simple upbringing all the way to the debate stage, seeking the presidency, and the vision that he had for this country, for what America could be if we find a way to talk to and with each other, with the idea of unity in mind. That vision and that dream of Jesse Jackson's was something that was revolutionary at the time in the 1980s, in 1984 and 1988. But today, it's so relevant because it feels like we are in this moment where we're still trying to figure out, how do we live with one another? Right. How do we deal with this democracy, this multiracial democracy that we have? And, I argue in the book that he offered some lessons about what that can look like, how you can acknowledge the uniqueness and the individuality of every person in this nation, Black, white, Asian, Arab, Jewish, Christian, whatever you are, acknowledging that, bringing that into the fold while also saying we actually have more in common than we have that is different. And the book is about what he tried to do and failed to do, but all the groundwork that he laid for the moment that we are in now.
I want to ask you another question. I may not ever get this chance again, so I want to ask you something that I've been giving deep thought to. When I grew up, I'm going to give my age away, we only had 3 TV stations. Mm-hmm. Channel 3, Channel 8, Channel 13, okay? It wasn't hard to get high ratings because you didn't have the 3 choices, okay? One of them was going to win. Today, we've got 300 and some stations. Yeah. We've got people streaming. We've got disinformation, misinformation, everything available to us to receive information. Only 28%, according to a recent study, really believe in the news and really have a commitment to the news. Yeah. And there are 40% who really don't look to the news, the traditional news, to get their information. And I'm wondering, working in that situation, how do you press through to increase those numbers and win back the ears and the eyes of America so that you can project us and move us forward?
In a word, I would say it's honesty. I think that what we are trying to do is give people something that feels real, that feels more authentic than what you are used to getting on television. And I think that is where things are headed. All the fracturing that's happened in the media landscape, what that really has shown is that people gravitate toward characters and figures and public figures and celebrities who they identify with, who they feel like they see something of themselves in that feels real and authentic to them. And I do think that news, in some ways, has gotten so produced that it feels less like that now. And one of the things that we kind of stumbled upon, frankly, in our show, Newsnight, is this big table conversation that feels like, for good or for bad, your Thanksgiving dinner table conversation. Sometimes you got people at the table and you're like, what is up with this guy? And that's a little, and that's okay, right? They're your family. They're at the table because they're family. And I think sometimes that's what our conversation feels like, is that we're all kind of sitting around and everybody's coming from a bit of a different place. And it gets a little bit messy. It gets a little loud sometimes.
Yeah.
But it feels more real than sometimes the sanitized version of the debates that we have in our public sphere. Because let's be honest, I mean, this is a difficult time that we're in as a country. And we are struggling to talk to one another, struggling to understand one another, struggling to care about one another. And at the very least, I think what we try to do on my show that I think has worked is that we've said, you know what? We are actually going to talk to each other. You don't even have to agree at the end of the day, but we are going to try something different. We're going to hear really what the other side of the argument has to say. And we're going to hash out the real issues that we're facing as a country. And again, we don't always come to some kind of neat conclusion, because I think that often there are not neat conclusions. But at least I think that effort is compelling to people. I think they feel represented in the different viewpoints. I think it's entertaining. It's 10 o'clock at night, so people are needing a reason to stay up when they want to go to bed.
Yeah.
And that has worked for us. But I think that more honesty, more authenticity in the news, more just being transparent with people about what we know and what we don't know will help so much. Because if we're not doing it in, the so-called mainstream media, people are going to go out there and they're going to find all kinds of crazy sources to get it from. And I think we need to be in that game of saying to people, it's not about whether everything looks, pretty and perfect. It's about whether you feel connected to what you're hearing. And I think we can do better about that going forward.
You do a great job with that. I've seen you referee some pretty tough fights.
It is tough.
We're going to get you a little striped outfit so you can keep them all together.
I got to get a mute button. That's what I really need.
Say it again?
Yeah, a mute button.
Yeah, a mute button. Yeah. It's pretty tough time, even around the dinner table, any table you get around in the car. Everybody has opposing opinions, even if they are the same ethnicity or the same family, and navigating that. And with the uncertainty of not knowing what's coming next is an amazing thing. I'm going to digress for a moment and go to Jonathan Egan. We're so pleased to have you here. He's a renowned writer. He's done a deep dive into MLK. We have seen a lot of his speeches. A lot of books have been written about what he said, but you go deeper than what he said. You go deeper into who he is. Can you tell us what you learned about him that we need to learn from?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be on this panel, and thanks to John Hope Bryant. But, when I began this book on Dr. King, it was a 6-year project, and I felt like we had lost sight of him as a man. Andy Young is here with us today. Ambassador Young is here. And
yes.
There were, I interviewed hundreds of people who knew Dr. King, including Ambassador Young. And what I realized was that we have begun to treat him as a monument, as a national holiday, as 1,000 streets running through America, but we've lost sight of the man. Right. And as Abby said earlier, if we don't know the history of where we've come from, we don't know where we are today and we don't know where we're going. History is not something in the past, it runs through our lives. And Dr. King is very much running through our lives today. But if we treat him as nothing but a two-dimensional character, and we forget that he was a man who had feelings and failures and who had a pillow fight with Ambassador Young, we forget these kinds of human details, we lose sight of his true power, and he loses his ability to inspire us today. So I wanted to write a book that reminded people, not just that he was human, not just that he had flaws, how many times he failed, how many times he came back from those failures, but just a book that reminded us that he was someone much more difficult and much more controversial, much more radical than we celebrate today.
Right.
In 1966, 2/3 of all Americans in a Gallup survey said they disapproved of Martin Luther King. In his last years, and thanks to the FBI's horrible surveillance of him, we actually have recordings of his conversations with his closest friends, including Ambassador Young. And we can hear how sad he was and how he felt like no one was listening to him anymore. But what's important to remember about Dr. King, and one of the things that really struck me as I got to know him through this research, was that as he began to lose some of that popularity. After his peak on August 28, 1963, at the March on Washington, as his popularity began to decline, he doubled down on the challenging parts of his message. He began to speak out more about income inequality, about the failures of capitalism, about the dangers of militarism, about the sins of materialism. And all of this just continued to compound his unpopularity. And we know how difficult it was on him. We know that he gave this speech a year before his assassination at the Riverside Church, where he explained his philosophy and said it was all rooted in the Bible, that everything he did was not to be popular. It was because he truly believed the words of Jesus, and that he felt it was his responsibility to remind the world that you can't just pick the popular battles. You've got to have something you believe in, and you've got to be willing to die for what you believe in.
Right.
And King showed us that. He didn't just preach it, he showed us that. He walked the walk, he talked the talk, and if we listen to his words again, if we go back and read his writings, and not just the ones that make us comfortable. I tell teachers when I speak at schools, I know you're doing a great job of teaching I Have a Dream. What about the first half of that speech?
Right.
What about the part he wrote out, the part he planned to say that day, which is about reparations, about income inequality, about police brutality? Let's teach that part too. Let's remember the full King story.
Right, right. Do you think that we run the risk when we idolize and make a monument out of a man? Do you think that we run the risk of not seeing future leaders of his ilk because we so deify them that it intimidates people from being eligible to continue the struggle with the same tenacity and fierceness that he did?
I think that's a real problem. We have a hard time embracing the fact that our heroes have flaws. King suffered from mental health issues all his life. He plagiarized his doctoral dissertation. And of course, we know that he struggled with marital fidelity. People have a hard time with that. But I say that it just makes him more courageous because he knew his own weaknesses and he felt like he still had a responsibility to carry on. And if we demand that all of our heroes, all of our political leaders be perfect, we're never going to have any heroes because none of us are perfect.
Well, a lot of people don't want to run for office because they don't want the scrutiny that comes with that. And that scrutiny comes from every direction. It doesn't just come from the media, from journalists who have some standards and guardrails as to what they do and do not say. Now everybody is a journalist.
That's right.
Everybody who's got a phone is a journalist. So it's hard to manage and to control how people perceive, how they project. And unfortunately, people will believe what they see on Instagram quicker than they will sometimes what they see on the major news. And I think some of our biggest and brightest people are afraid to go through the kind of scrutiny and put their family through the kind of abuse, the trauma that goes to their children. It's not an easy thing to go through. Abby, in your own life, you've had some moments where you had to protect yourself and your family and been threatened and ran into obstacles. How do you handle those kinds of things when people disagree with you and it flows past the working hours to your personal life?
I mean, this conversation I think is so important, both when I think about not just myself. I mean, I think my interaction with that kind of vitriol is fairly limited because one of the things you learn very quickly is that the internet is not real life. And people say all kinds of things about you online because they're sitting in their homes and it's really not, right? And you can let it affect you, you can sit in it, you can stew about it, you can think about your comeback. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. So I think one of the things, first of all, just as far as I'm concerned, I mean, there is the physical protection that everybody, unfortunately, I think probably all of us have had to deal with, where you have to really think about for the first time, okay, how do I protect myself and also my family? And just take reasonable precautions that people are not putting your address out there and doing things like that, which has also happened to me. But I don't think that feeding into this back and forth is particularly helpful, which I think some people fall into that trap where the internet makes it seem as if something said about you, you're gonna say it right back. And I think sometimes it's better to just leave it alone. But as Jonathan was talking about, Dr. King and the sort of, what happens when you make a man a monument, but also what happens when you tear a man down. I think both things, make it hard for people to want to engage in public life. I mean, Dr. King's life was cut short. And because of that, I think it was easier for people to lionize him as a kind of one-dimensional figure. When I'm writing this book about Jesse Jackson, you realize a man who's lived 84 years and has done a lot of things, has lived long enough that he's become a villain to some people and a hero to others. And it's really neither of those things. I mean, I think both of these men are human. So many of these people of their generation, they are human. They have ups and downs and flaws, and they have things that they've done extremely well. But one of the things that separates them, that makes the difference between just a random person on the street and someone who does what they have done in their lives, is that they decided to get up and do something. They decided to, regardless of the consequences, leave their homes at some point in time and do a thing. And I think that is, to me, the most important lesson of our heroes when we think about the people who we lionize as our heroes. What are they? They are not perfect. They are not flawless, but they are people who acted. And we all have that capacity to act. And if we're only concerned about how we're perceived and whether people will love us or hate us, that will be debilitating. It will be impossible for us to act. And I think the more important thing is, what does it take for you to decide to do something about the problems that you're seeing in your world and in your communities? And the fortitude that it took for Dr. King and for Jesse Jackson and for an Andy Young and for all of these people to not just get up off their couch and go outside, but to face death it's extraordinary. And I think the bar, honestly, is so much lower for us today. It's so much lower for us today. So we have no excuse. We have no excuse but to get up and do something, regardless of what people will say about us.
Do you think that Jonathan talks about how Dr. King went through depression and had emotional issues in regard to the things that were said and done about him? He was more, I'm convinced that America loves dead heroes.
Yeah.
Well,
they love dead
and
heroes.
especially Black ones.
Yes.
Because I'm going to be honest, because I do think it is easier to villainize people when they're alive than when they're. But to be honest, I mean, as Jonathan has written about, it wasn't like everybody was down with creating MLK Day or making a memorial on the National Mall. I mean, those were controversial things too, even decades after his death.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think that unfortunately, there was a whole generation of people who did not live to see their elderly years because they were killed, they were assassinated.
Right.
And that is a complicated fact of American history, but it's a real one. And I do think that it has, in some ways, made it easier for people to say nice things about Dr. King when they feel like they don't have to grapple with the controversial parts of him or the human parts of him.
Yeah, Harry Belafonte said to me that America only loves dead radicals.
Exactly.
And he felt like the holiday had actually done more harm than good because it had given us only the safe version of Dr. King's story, only the parts that make us comfortable.
Right.
And we got to fight back against it.
It's kind of like preaching a funeral, no matter what kind of life the guy lived, you got to send him to heaven.
You got to say something.
The last 5 minutes, he got to go to heaven, The chariot got to come get him. He might be drunk, but the chariot has got to come get him. I'm going to get out of that. That's all I'm going to say about that. I want to know, Abby, did you have to go through a metamorphosis to build up the thick skin that is necessary to tolerate the harsh things that are said about you? I know in my own life, it's shocking I mean, it's shocking. It is not enough to be talented, gifted, and educated. You also have to be resilient internally in a way that people would not even believe
Yeah.
the things you go through because they don't even think you're human
Yeah.
because they see you on TV.
Well,
when did you change it? How did you
what I
do
will
it?
say is, I grew up in the church. My dad was a pastor.
Oh, okay.
And I remember one of the things that I will never forget. My dad would always say, because we weren't allowed to do a lot of things growing up, a lot
Right.
of things. And he would always say, you're going to be in this world, but not of the world.
Right.
In the world, but not of the world. And that has taken on so many different meanings for me. But what in this moment, what it means for me is that it's almost like a live by the sword, die by the sword type of thing. If I am getting all of my self-esteem and my self-awareness from other people, from the world, then I would be torn down. I would feel like nothing. And you can't live your life like that. And the other part of my upbringing in the church is that, I choose not to respond in kind to everything that comes at me. I do not want to become my so-called enemy by resorting to the types of tactics and strategies and mindsets that people can put you in just by saying something about you.
Right.
If you've ever noticed that when somebody says something negative about you, all of a sudden it makes you angry. It changes your disposition.
Yeah.
It changes your mindset. It hardens your heart.
Yeah.
And I still work on this. This is a day-to-day practice. But I literally sit there and I say to myself, I am not going to allow them to make me hate. I am not going to allow them to make me angry. I am not going to allow them to make me a person that I don't want to be, a person who is more like them and less like me. And so I got that from my faith, from knowing that, love thy neighbor, all of that, knowing that I am not supposed to reciprocate all the energy that comes at me, that I'm supposed to take the people who hate me and return love and kindness to them. And that is not popular these days. It is not easy to do.
No.
I know that a lot of people think it's naive and stupid.
No.
I don't, because I choose peace in my life. And some people, they feel good when they're firing back. That is so short-lived. I don't even go there. It is so short-lived. It is so temporary. What is not temporary is peace. And you have to find your ability to center yourself. That's what I do. I do it every single day. Every single night, I lay in my bed, and you know what it's like when you're sitting there, whether you're in prayer or you're in meditation or both.
Right.
And that is what I've chosen for my life. And I know it is not a popular thing these days. Everybody wants a clap back. But I'm just here to tell you that feels good in the moment, but it is not going to give you peace.
No, it only elongates the problem and makes it worse. You took a very theological approach to it that I can really, really appreciate. Mine is a little less theological, more practical, but profound nonetheless. So we traded places here for a minute. I refuse to put my thermostat in somebody else's pen. Okay, for me, that's too much power to give you, for you to be able to wreck my day. And by the way, you don't even know me.
That part.
You don't know me. I don't know you, and maybe it's best that it stay that way. But one thing that I'm sure of, one thing that I'm absolutely sure of, is that I do not want the control of my day to be left in the hand of a stranger who neither cares about me, knows me, or understands me. And we all have the right to choose who you give the power to be able to hurt you. And some people cannot handle that power. And I think you give that power away when you allow what they say to hurt you and to wound you and to demoralize you. Often they're just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
They're just doing it for kicks and giggles.
Yeah.
And you're over there bleeding. And I'm going to stop the bleeding because I'm going to get to Van. I made him sit over there and wait all that time. And he's itching and bleeding. They have reminded us of our roots, of what started us, what developed us, what made us, what helped us to transition, become the people that we are. My concern is books are being taken off the library shelf. They're being taken out of the schools. Access to material, monuments, historical documents, museums are all being ripped away or challenged in this hour. How do we protect the message going into the future? And what do you think about delivering this message so that our grandchildren will know that God was with us when we crossed the Jordan? I went back to my theology. Okay. What stones do we leave behind as a memorial that says we did not get here by ourselves? We picked cotton. My daughter came home when she was a little girl, and she's maybe in the 3rd grade, and she said, "Is it true, Mama, that we came from slaves?" Because that's the way they taught us that Black history began when we got off the boat. They did not teach us who we were before. And back then, we did not leave the teaching of Black history in the hands of the teacher. No. We taught our children at home who they were. We taught them at church who they were. We put a force field around them so that when they went to school, they already had some sense of identity. And the last thing I said to my baby boy before I let him out of the car to go to college is, don't you go there and forget who you are. Because you learned who you were at home. How do we protect that going forward?
Well, let me say a couple things. First of all, to be here with Abby is such a joy for me.
Thank you.
Being in cable news, there's 320 million people in the United States. There are 135 people in the country who are paid to be hosts on cable television. 6 of them are Black women. She's the youngest and the most successful. She's the youngest and the most successful. I said she's the youngest and the most successful. So as one of the OGs, I could sit here all day. My soul is rested watching a star rise up. And I think about how young she is, and I think about how young Dr. King and Andy Young were in their moment. And I think that sometimes as Black folks, we get something I call temporal disorientation. Temporal disorientation. Sometimes we get confused about time and how time works. The reality is, Dr. King, in 1963, a 33-year-old kid standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, freestyling, "I Have a Dream." That part wasn't even written down. The stuff that was written down, he got past that. And then the sister told him, "Tell me about your dream, Martin."
I hear you.
And then he freestyled that part. Dr. King was not trying to make history. Don't get temporal dissociation. He was trying to make the future better.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to make history. He was trying to make the future better. When, and by the way, what he was saying, think about him as a radical Afrofuturist, not a historical figure. When he's standing there in 1963 and he's talking about an America that has Black children and white children playing together, that could have been Star Wars or Star Trek. That had never happened in 400 years. He spoke into existence a better future that we're now living into. He was a futurist, not just a historical figure. Reverend Jackson, in '88, runs a brilliant campaign in '88 talking about hope in 88. Almost beats Dukakis in 88, comes up short. He could have walked away bitter, but he thought about the future, and he told the Democratic Party, hold on a second. I have a lot more votes out in the country than I have delegates in this hall. If you want me to endorse Dukakis, you have to change these rules so that in the future, someone else who comes along and runs a campaign like this will have a fair opportunity. They changed those rules. 20 years later, a young man named Barack Obama came along, ran the exact same race with the exact same outcome. Hillary Clinton's folks said, well, we're going to win California, we're going to win New York, we don't have to worry about Obama. They didn't read the rules. They didn't read Jesse's rules. And they woke up in a body bag because Reverend Jackson was a futurist thinking 20 years down the road for a Barack Obama. We got to talk about the black future. That's the challenge that we have right now. When you have a generation of giants like an Andy Young, like an Ella Jo Baker, like a Fannie Lou Hamer, like a Bayard Rustin, it is hard to just not be transfixed by what they did and to want to make sure the whole world knows. But they weren't thinking about the history, they were thinking about the future. What is the black future? At this point, I would turn in about 20 Black History months for one Black Future weekend. Okay? What is the black future? The reason John Hope Bryant is so important is because that's what he's focused on. Now look, watch the rhythm here. 68, Dr. King is killed. 88, 20 years later, you have Reverend Jackson running and changing the rules. 20 years later, 2008, you have Barack Obama. It's about to be 20 years again.
Yep.
2028. What is the next iteration?
Yeah.
What is it? There are two futures that are available, not just to black folk, but to humanity. Two futures. They are both determined by technology. We keep talking about AI, AI, AI. The reality is that the AI they're talking about by itself is going to give you a future that you don't want. Think about the Terminator, okay? Think about a techno-fascist future where villainous people have machines that dominate everybody and there's no freedom. That's one future that's available because of AI, artificial intelligence. But there's another intelligence. There's another intelligence. Ancient intelligence, AI. Ancestral intelligence, AI. Your intelligence, AI. That's what's missing from the conversation. That's why when John Hope Bryant says we're going to future-proof our community, see, John is slick. Don't let this man fool you. He has diagnosed you down to a T. And he understands that he's got to shift us now from honoring our past to also owning our future.
Right.
That's the John Hope Bryant move.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
where we're moving now as we go into 2028. And honoring our public sector brilliance, but now extending that to our private sector brilliance. And then understanding what some folk want to do with technology, take away jobs, replace people with robots, displace millions and millions of people. But if you take that same technology and put it in other folks' hands, people who have ancestral intelligence, ancient intelligence, what would we do with that same technology? We wouldn't create the Terminator. We would make Wakanda real. We would make Wakanda real. We would take technology and use it to uplift people. We wouldn't have a villainous view. We would have a heroic view. We wouldn't dismiss our ancestors. We would honor our ancestors. And you would be in a position, what problem can we not solve with these tools and this heart? Think about that. People keep telling me and John, when you're going to see what John's about to do, which is about to change the entire direction of AI. I'm not getting ahead of you, John, but I'm just too excited about you. People keep telling me and John, you're talking about AI then, John. The people talk to me and John honestly sometimes, so we be off with folks, big names, big money. They get comfortable. They tell us what they really think. Bishop, you've been in the same situation. They'll tell you what they really think.
Yeah.
And they say, you know, John, I love what you're talking about. I love it. It's great.
Don't look at it.
But 99% of these black kids, if we're honest, 99% of these black kids, they don't know anything about AI. I mean, if we're honest. John says, you know what? You're correct. And 99% of white folk don't know anything about it either yet.
Exactly.
Because it's new. That's called equality. We are all equally ignorant about all this new stuff. So don't count out a people. Don't count out a people that have been able to take just praying hands and marching feet and change their country. Don't count out a people. Don't count out a people.
This may be the first time in my lifetime that I have seen an even playing field.
Even playing field.
Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what the future's going to bring. The floor is level, it's flat, and we have no excuse not to be able to be competitive because we're all starting at ground level zero. So this is our chance either to bellyache and groan about it or to take advantage of this opportunity and lead the charge into the future and control the destiny. And while we're doing it, we have to realize that while we're sitting up here staring at ChatGPT, other countries all over Africa, all over the
Nigeria,
world, they are moving ahead with technology. You're not just racing against America is not the world. We're just a part of the world, and we need to understand that the floor is flat right now. If we leap now, we can succeed. But if we wait, we will miss our opportunity, and we'll be on the back of the bus again. I'm over time. I've got to stop. I could go on with you guys for a long time.
I know we have to go. I just want to say one thing to you, Bishop.
Yeah.
You have been a balm to folk that you've never met. There are people who have not ended their lives because of your words. There are people, we gotta just tell the truth about who this man is. There are people who are at the end of the end of the end and heard a word from you and they're here with their children. There are people who are in prisons right now who are sharing your word. There are people whose marriages have been saved. Marriages have been saved by your word. There are people who have businesses now that they started to know what they were doing, and you helped them. You've forgotten their names and have helped them, and they're now millionaires. And to have you on this stage, to be here with the legends like Andy Young is an honor, and we love you. You need to know that. We need to know that we know who you are. So thank you.
Thank you, John, for your courage. Thank you for your participation.
I love you.
Wonderful.
I love you.
Gentlemen,
I love you.
Great.
I love you.
ladies and gentlemen,
John, I hope it's courageous.
ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you understand that history does not feel historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. But that does not mean that the moment is not historic. What you've experienced here, two of the top TV anchors in the world who happen to be black. The author of one of the most important books on Dr. King's legacy ever. And the black bishop, the black pope in the world. A man who does not get the credit he deserves. Can you please show him in particular some love? Bishop, turn around.
That's right.
You are courageous.
I know you enjoyed that, right? Wow, what a conversation. Things for us to think about. Remember, don't waste energy on all that negativity. We don't need it. We have too many things to do for ourselves, for our families, and this is the start of that. This is the start of that season. All right, ready to go change the world? I don't think you're ready. Are you ready to go change the world? That's what we're talking about. I'm ready. I hope you are ready. All right, we're going to break out now. We had a whole amazing series of straight talks going on upstairs. That is level 3. And Jonathan will be doing an author talk and a book signing, so you don't want to miss that. That will be next door at the HGF Studios. All right? So we'll see you back here for lunch. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Tuesday.